Are you there, buddy?
How you doing, Doc?
I'm okay. I don't know what happened this morning. I can't get into my paid Zoom account. I mean, my paid Restream account, and I can't get my documents from what I pulled up all week long. So I'll just have to ad lib it.
Well, you're looking a little purple here today.
Should I change the lights?
Maybe you look a little purple.
All right, let me see.
That's a whole lot better.
Okay. All right.
And there's something in your green screen on the over your left shoulder.
Yeah, I gotta get my background up here. Let's see. Video settings.
Have you done your makeup?
Yeah, I did my makeup, but see, I'm not in my paid account. So let's see, background and effects. So here we go. Here's something. Is that better?
San Francisco looks nice.
All right. And
but you still have a gray thing over your left shoulder. I don't know what it is, but it's blocking your green screen.
Yeah, I'm gonna move that right now. I'll be back in a second. I'm back.
Much better now.
Okay. Now look all right.
You look great. San Francisco Bay looks great. We're ready to go.
All right, buddy.
So what'd you think of last week?
It was a learning experience, and I guess I feel I was a little upset because I screwed up some things, but I guess I feel like at least we pulled it off and we got it out there.
Yeah, learning experience is a good word for it. I thought it sounded okay. Yes, I wish more people would have shown up, but the people who did show up were your real fans, man. They love you.
Man, they're hardcore, aren't they?
Yeah, I think I blew some of the women's imaginations away because they picture what I'm going to look like and then they actually see me and it's like disappointment.
Yeah, well, that happens.
It happens to radio guys all the time.
Yep. This is just part of life, buddy boy.
All right, well, I'll leave you alone. Get what you need together for the show.
Oh, I think I got enough. I can always wing it. I don't look too purple now, do I?
Oh, no, you're much pinker now. You look like you don't need any oxygen or anything.
We shall see, shan't we?
Good news is my Achilles tendon is, I would say, 99% healed. I can do just about anything now.
Well, good. Good. All right. Well, I'm going to just make some notes. I can probably remember most everything, but we got some things to talk about. We'll be okay.
All right. Then we'll talk after the news. Okay, I'll send you some audio.
Thank you.
Sticks to us. So some interesting stats for the July 2023 is the active days on market. Well, the active days on market for this past calendar month was 43 days. Well, that's okay. So we know it's 43 days. Well, what was it a year ago? That's even more interesting to see a long-term trend.
It was less.
Well, yeah, a year ago in July of 2022, it was 16 days on market. So it's more than doubled. Okay, almost tripled in the amount of time that it's taking for the property to sit on the market. So we'll look at now what's interesting. Now, this is a very interesting real estate stat. Now, what's interesting is the pricing. The pricing seems to be still very high. Now, get this: in June of 2023, we sold $8 billion worth of real estate, Florida real estate, and in July of 2022, so a year, roughly a year apart, we sold 6.9 billion. So even though it's taking longer to sell,
Selling more.
we're still have a higher total sales volume that is out there. So that's very interesting. We have and here kind of proves the point. But the next stat says, well, the sales price. What was the average sales price? Well, the average sales price was $451,000 in July of 2023. Well, what was it back in July of 22? Well, it was 448,000. So it was just up ever so slightly. Okay. So, it's interesting in that regard, because, we like to know these things. We like to know what the trends are. So even though we obviously have more on the market to sell, which is good for inventory, it's still very expensive what is available to be sold. The months of inventory have also increased. So we're now at 3 months of inventory. So what does months of inventory mean? Well, this is another real estate only kind of term, but because you tune into our show, you get to learn some of the real estate jargon that we use independently. And I don't care what field you're in, marketing or horticulture, whatever, there's always jargon that's specific to that industry that you're in. Well, months of inventory means it would take 3 months for all of the properties to be sold. So in other words, they're all gone in 3 months. Okay, so that is the months of inventory. Now, there are some outliers on there. There are some people out there that have ridiculous prices on property, or my personal favorite, and I always like to mention this, are the people that are going to sell the property for what it could be, not for what it is, but for what it could be. Sometimes you see this done a lot in commercial properties, or people that are unsure of how to sell something. What they'll do is they'll try to sell it, of what it might be, or
it could be the Taj Mahal.
Or another mistake that I'll see is they'll mention an idea of what could be done on a property, and sometimes they'll even say it in residential. They'll say, "Oh, well, it potentially has a spare lot," except they'll leave the potentially part off of there, and they'll sell it as if there was already a subdivided lot on a parcel, even though there isn't. So we call that deceptive marketing. And I don't advocate for that. And I often tell agents, don't do it. I know that might sound good on the bottom line, but it's not good for the brokerage who ultimately is responsible for your shady marketing tactics. So don't do it. If it is one singular lot, it's one singular lot. Could the new owner potentially divide it and potentially build another property on something? Well, sure, they potentially could do that. They potentially could win the lottery. They could potentially, grow 6 inches and have a new. But you're going to find too that a lot of times in residential markets that people don't want extra density occurring in their area, because that doesn't necessarily have a direct correlation to increased values.
And we would tell you the broker is responsible for your actions, and if whoever's the name on the door,
right,
you can't say, "Oh, well, I'm an independent contractor." If their name's on the door, and if your name happens to be on the door, you're still part of the door.
Correct.
And I think it's funny, people will go, "Well, he's kind of an agent on his own." No, he's not. He's working underneath a broker, or he, or whoever is working underneath. They're working underneath that broker,
correct,
and underneath that door. And that's when they see that door, whatever the big name is.
And especially in real estate too, because there are real estate laws that create this hierarchy,
right,
where you have this arrangement. But yeah, I think even when it's not spelled out very clearly to the general public, it's very confusing. And if you can't tell, that there's a problem. I mean, if the general, again, all of the laws in the state of Florida, again, I'm not a lawyer, but all of the laws are set up to protect the consumer.
Sure.
In other words, if a consumer can't know that there's a difference, then you should have a sign up in your business letting people know, hey, you're doing business with such and such person, and that person is separate and distinct from this business as a whole. And if you don't have that disclaimer up, then that's confusing. One of the reasons real estate companies always try to make sure that they put their marketing out, that this is a singular office and doing business only in this particular office. Well, they're trying to make sure that you can't go and sue the entire company if they have 27 offices.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons that they put that on there, is they're trying to make a disclaimer, something that their lawyers could argue against if you should try to make a broader claim against their entire business.
Fat chance.
Well, if
I
you
know.
don't put that up, then you betcha the lawyers are going to do it, because you've created that potentiality for them to assume that there is this much larger, grander relationship. And the public is always going to do that. They're always going to assume that this person is part of a much larger
When you are.
organization. And you are.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. So-
you can hide that if you wish, but it's not going to hold up.
Exactly. And I think most people would understand that. One of the things we always encourage people to do is we don't take our audience for granted. We certainly feel blessed to have you spend a little bit of time with us every week, every Sunday or every Saturday night, listening to our show. And of course, the eclectic, the great Dr. Bill Handelman is coming up next. And with that, I'll let you take it away.
And the best time to plant a plant is when you've got that shovel in your hand. Make sure you enjoy your life and garden. And remember, without plants, without trees, we wouldn't be here.
Want to talk real estate? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at askmrgreenthumb.com. Tampa Bay's only conservative station, AM 860, The Answer, WGUL. You need to download the Answer Tampa app or listen online at theanswertampa.com. Tune in at Odyssey. Here's the latest from the Answer News Center.
With SRN News, I'm Michael Harrington in Washington. Morocco working to rescue survivors while praying for victims of the country's strongest earthquake in more than a century. It killed more than 2,000 people, and the number is expected to rise. There is some good news, though.
We're also hearing stories of hope from footballers who are coming out to donate blood to help the thousands of people who've been injured, who are waiting for treatment in hospitals, and others who are traveling from all around and do something to help those thousands of people who've been affected by this quake.
BBC correspondent Anna Halligan in Marrakesh. Elon Musk's social media platform, formerly known as Twitter, suing the state of California. The question is a state law requiring social media companies to publish the policies for removing offending material. This is SRN News. A new study of how Americans consume church. SRN's Ken Lorman reports.
The Pew Research Center wants to know why some people have returned to in-person worship while others continue to watch services online. 52% of those who are actually in the pews on Sunday say they do it because they enjoy the sense of connection and community that traditional worship brings. Others say they feel more focused when they're actually there. Those who watch online say they do it because it doesn't require them to get dressed up, and some are still worried about COVID. Ken Lorman, SRN News.
The Florida Supreme Court is taking up the challenge to a law that bans abortion in most cases after 15 weeks of pregnancy. The court's decision will determine whether an even stricter 6-week ban signed by Republican Governor Ron DeSantis can take effect. A lawsuit brought by Planned Parenthood, the American Civil Liberties Union, and other pressure groups claims the law is unconstitutional. This is SRN News.
This is Albert Mohler for townhall.com. The GOP candidates for president are gearing up for the next debate later this month in Southern California. I'm hoping we get something better than what we saw in Milwaukee last month. What we saw then was a poorly moderated media circus displaying just about everything wrong with American politics. The candidates played to a loud strategy that had little to do with advancing ideas. They just sought to build their brands and blasted their opponents. Furthermore, the candidate leading in the polls did not even show up. There were very few moments worth remembering. The most urgent question discussed on that stage was abortion, and the candidates revealed a lack of candor and clarity on the most important moral issue of our times, at least some of them. It really wasn't a debate at all. It was a show. Welcome to the Republican race for the White House. I need an aspirin. I'm Albert Mohler.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu.
The following program is sponsored by Bay Area Medical Can Care Clinic.
The latest from AccuWeather at the top and bottom of the hour. Only on AM 860, The Answer.
Partly sunny skies will bring an end to the weekend today with a high of 92. Clear skies tonight, then a few clouds move in later, low 78. Kicking off the week tomorrow, mostly sunny with a high of 93. Mainly clear skies tomorrow night, low 78. Grab the rain gear for Tuesday, mostly sunny, spotty thunderstorm in the afternoon with high 94. That's your AccuWeather forecast. I'm Cheryl Golden for AM 860, The Answer.
If I asked you to dance, would you say yes?
Are you there, Ken?
I just don't want to.
Ken?
Morning, Doc.
Are you there, buddy?
We are on and ready to go.
All right. I'm Dr. Bill, your radio MD. I lost you there. What happened?
I'm not sure, but I found you, and that's the only important thing.
All right. So we're doing a radio show this morning, and oh God, I've had troubles. I don't know why, but I could not get into my paid Restream account, but I think I've got it out on Facebook and YouTube anyway. So, and we're doing live radio, which is always good, 860 AM. And then what our FM channel is 9 something, I can't remember. And I guess the big news of the day is the hurricane, not the hurricane, but the earthquake in Morocco near Marrakesh up in the Atlas Mountains. The Atlas Mountains are a string of mountains that run across North Africa through Morocco and Tunisia. And I think it ends up in the westernmost part of northern Egypt. But there's over 1,000 deaths now. Maybe 2,000.
Yeah, I think they just said about 2,000, something like that.
2,000. And, you know, that seems very striking. And a lot of people say to me, well, all these natural disasters, isn't this unusual? Isn't this out of, character? And is this the environment? Is this climate change? Or are there too many of us on the planet? You know when the largest death toll earthquake happened and where?
I don't know.
1556 in Shanghai, China, 830,000 people. 830,000 people.
Wow.
And then you remember Port-au-Prince, Haiti in 2010?
Yeah, I remember the earthquake. Don't remember how many people.
316,000.
How many?
316,000. Well,
no kidding.
Probably half of them jumped on boats and headed to the United States, but we'll stick with that number.
I had no idea.
And Antakya, Turkey, had 260,000. And I think that was in the year 115 AD. The Romans kept good records back then, as you know. So these are not uncommon natural disasters. And unfortunately for Morocco, it hit in around Marrakesh. I think it was more up in the mountains, but Marrakesh is kind of at the edge of I think it's down in a valley right by or in the Atlas Mountains there.
And building standards are not really, up to par there.
Well, I would guess not. There's a lot of rigid older structures that have been there probably for hundreds of years, a lot of stone buildings, and, stone does not, it doesn't bend.
Yeah.
It just cracks and falls, unlike structures that we're building now where we put them on floating beds of mercury or cushions or pillars or whatever. And then, of course, if you have a wooden house, you're going to get a little more flexibility there because you got timber and wood bends. But I would guess.
What was this one rated at? I never did hear.
It was, oh gosh. You know,
Six and above, it had to be above a 6, I would think, to do this kind of
yeah,
damage and death.
yeah, let's see.
Once
what
once you
we-
start to get around 6 or 7, you really see some terrible things happen.
Yeah, it was 6 point something, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it was
But we'll,
powerful.
we'll look at that up at halftime and see what we got. The aftershocks, I don't know if they've had any yet, but certainly that's something they have to worry about. And you know, our hearts go out to them. That's the Berbers area. Those are Berber towns that went down. The Berbers are kind of like the hillbillies in Morocco. Northern Morocco is the big cities and the more urbane, educated folks, and then the Berbers are they're the remnants of nomadic tribes that settled in the Atlas Mountains there. So, but they're people.
Yeah. It's very sad when something like that happens.
Yeah,
It really
yeah.
is. And I'm sure we're sending some help. We probably usually do. We usually send all kinds of aid.
Yeah, I'm sure we do, and I'm sure that the Salvation Army is probably there, and the Red Cross will show up when the news cameras show up. And well, I mean, that's important, right?
Well, it is for donations. It is actually, because they
Yeah.
do raise money from you and me. So
Yep. So, did you hear about the New Mexico governor?
yes, I did. She's in a lot of trouble.
She says that the Constitution is not absolute, and her oath of office.
She's
is not
about to find out
absolute.
she's wrong.
Well, this is what I don't understand, Ken. If you take an oath, isn't that supposed to be an absolute thing?
To honor the Constitution, yeah, absolutely.
And to honor the state,
Yeah,
the laws of the state. I mean, I don't get it. It makes no sense to me how somebody can just jump in and say that and be so cavalier about their role, their position, their job, their oath of office.
she thinks she's been, crowned emperor or something, I guess.
She kind of looks like
Like Cleopatra?
no,
No?
not hardly.
What she did was she banned gun use in banned guns in Albuquerque or something like that.
She banned open carry.
Open carrying, okay, in Albuquerque. Well, she's on the wrong side of the Constitution, and she'll find out.
I don't care if you have open carry or not, but what I do care about is somebody who abuses the oath of office that they've taken. And I know these are politicians, and they will say and do anything to
Does she have aspirations of being a senator?
to get their name out there and get their point across. But I think that's a little egregious and over the top. But what do I know? I'm just
Works. We're talking about her.
I'm just a country boy from Louisville.
It may not be truly ethical, but we are talking about her. If that's her goal, then she succeeded.
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
And she's got press now, baby.
That's right. Exactly. So she'll be in the running for whenever presidential election she feels like joining.
And then we got Hurricane Lee coming up to the northeast. I don't know what that's at now. I think it was at a category 5 and dropped down to a 3, but
And that was weird. He kind of right in the middle of the Atlantic. I guess it gets cooler out there. The water must get cooler, so it dropped down from a 5 to a 4.
Is it a 4 now?
Last time I checked, it was. I can
The
bring the Weather Channel up here on my phone.
you know,
See
the,
what-
the thing about hurricanes is the meteorologists, they say, well, it's the warm water that's feeding these things. To a certain degree, that's true, but then you have wind shears at the top. You have high pressure systems that they bump into, which dilute them down and bump them and move them. And so there's a whole lot of factors. And one of my friends was saying, why do we have predictions? Because they're never right. You know? I mean, it was like this last hurricane that came through here. What was that one last week? 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, right, exactly. That hit 5, didn't it? Half 5 at the end.
I think for a minute or two.
Yeah, then it went down to a 4 right away.
And then it was, by the time it made landfall, it was a 2 or a 3. And it was supposed to hit us here at Tampa Bay. I looked at the high pressure systems and I said, this ain't coming to Tampa Bay. This is going up to the Panhandle, which is where most of these things end up going. They end up going to the Panhandle or over to Mississippi or Louisiana, and Alabama, they don't hit us. I mean, they just don't. I think the high pressure systems, the Bermuda high that sits out in the Atlantic, and then the high pressures that come down from the Arctic, those tend to box these hurricanes in and force them right up that funnel into the Panhandle and further west. So,
Well, thank goodness it does.
yeah, but we need me to be your meteorologist. That's the bottom line here, Ken.
Oh, Doc, I think you got enough to do just keeping us all healthy.
Yeah, I'm trying. Oh, speaking of which, the state public health officer, the head of our state health department, he's a doctor. I think he's originally from Nigeria. Looks like a nice guy. He said, don't take the new vaccine that's coming out, the new COVID vaccine. It's unproven yet. There hasn't been enough studies. Well, I mean, that's the same thing that they said about the original vaccine. And of course, there's been a lot of negative press, and it's been misinterpreted what was said. It didn't prevent spread of the virus. Well, yeah, it did to a certain degree. It certainly did. And it certainly cut way down on the number of hospitalizations and deaths. So you have to look at it in the whole context of what vaccinations do. They may not totally eliminate a disease, but with the COVID virus, they certainly cut way down on morbidity and mortality. And that's the bottom line. And of course, this thing is it's mutating, and now we've got the Omicron and Omicron daughters, and even the new one that's coming out, the B2 point something or another. It is not supposed to be all that egregious either. So that means it's going to be primarily an upper respiratory tract infection, and we'll be able to treat it with Paxlovid. But I have seen a surge in the past few weeks in the COVID virus, Ken, and I've given out several doses of Paxlovid, both in the office and on the phone. And one woman came in and she said, I don't feel good, coughed in my face. We tested.
That's why you get the big bucks, Doc.
Yeah. And then of course she was positive for COVID and flu A and flu B.
No wonder she didn't feel good.
So I just went and rode my bike yesterday morning, said to hell with it. Figured that'll cure most anything.
So what's the recommendation then? The new vaccine for the elderly or people?
Yeah, I would say over 50 chronic diseases, pulmonary diseases, heart disease, kidney disease, diabetes, those sorts of things, that you should get it. I'm going to take it. I'll tell you that. And I don't care what the news media and pundits say. They don't know. They're just blowing smoke. And I don't care what the state or the federal health department has to say either. I think the best recommendation is to get the vaccine. I mean, it doesn't hurt. And we discussed this last week, the number of people who got myocarditis from it or other quote horrible side effects and diseases is so small, and actually getting the virus itself causes more problems. We had a big debate at the lunch table because some of the guys are saying, well, what about the long COVID? I mean, what do you mean long COVID? What is long COVID? Well, one of my buddies, he's got pulmonary fibrosis, an interstitial lung disease now after having it. Well, that's not the virus. That's the autoimmune reaction to the virus. And when I think of long COVID, I think of a chronic viral infection like hepatitis B or multiple sclerosis, something like that. But this is not a long lasting virus. But what happens is in some people, they have predisposition for their autoimmune system to rev up. And we've seen this, and I had one patient, well, you know him, he's one of the radio guys, station guys, Steve. He's got psoriatic arthritis, and boy, he got really sick with the original COVID virus.
Yeah, we were all really worried about him for a while there.
Yeah, we thought he wasn't going to make it. Well, I didn't think that because, my hubris would not allow me to think that I could let one of my patients die.
That's why I like you, Doc.
So I gave him all the medicines, all the correct treatment, all that, and I also hung garlic at the door. And and I put on my voodoo headdress and did a dance out in the hallway. And I'm not sure what saved him, but I don't think that hurt, Ken. I don't.
Not
think
at all.
No,
I mean,
not-
that's why you're my doctor. You'll work up a sweat to save a life. So
Absolutely. And speaking of which, my son's girlfriend, she's driving me crazy because she came to me initially with a neurologic problem. We put her in the hospital. I made a pretty good diagnosis. She wasn't happy with that. And so she went and ran around and found a neurologist and found some quack up in Clearwater who's a Scientologist. And
Scientologist, okay.
yeah, he claims to be a world renowned expert on Lyme disease. Give me a break. He did his training in family practice, so he's not even a board trained. He's not even a residency or fellowship trained infectious disease doctor. And he did all these hundreds and hundreds of tests on her and said, "Oh, you have Lyme disease," and put her on antibiotics for a few weeks. Of course, she's still symptomatic. So I repeated the legitimate test that the CDC recommends, which is the initial Lyme screening test. And then there's a reflex to, if that's positive, then there's a reflex to IgG and IgM antibodies for the Lyme disease. IgM is the immediate release antibody that when you get an infection, you kick out. And that is the first thing that fights the infection. And then, a few weeks to months later, IgG kicks out. So we can see at what stage the virus is. We can tell within a few weeks whether it's a recent or if you've had it for a while. And of course, to get the tertiary or the third stage of something like Lyme's disease, which is similar to syphilis, you're talking months to years. And she had neurologic symptoms. She never had any initial symptoms, Ken. You usually get what we call a Herald patch. It's erythema migrans. It's like a bullseye target, which is red and circular, and then it spreads out a little bit, and then that disappears. And you're usually sick. You got a headache, you got a respiratory infection, or other systemic symptoms, and then it progresses from there. And she never had any of that. So at any rate, I ran the IgG and the IgM on her, both negative. So if you don't have IgG antibodies or IgM antibodies, you don't have the virus, and you never did. I mean, the bacteria, and you never did, or your immune system is not intact and you're dead. And that's it. I mean, I wondered how much he charged her and how many thousands of dollars he spent on all these ridiculous tests. And she's no better. She's no better. She's
People
still
want to hear what they want to hear. They don't like your diagnosis. I'll go someplace where I'll hear what I do like.
Yeah, and you can go hear what you want to hear.
Is that going to help you? But
I mean, and you can always come back to me. I mean, I'm not going to be mad at you. Hell, I figure I'll get you back one way or another.
it's your money. Do what you want with it. You know?
Yeah.
You want quality? Go see Doc Handelman.
So we dealt with that this week, and I did leave her a message to say that I got all of her tests back, but she probably is afraid to call me now, and there's no reason for that. I asked my son, I said, "Why didn't she follow up with me?" He said she didn't want to bother you, Dad. What do you think I do for a living? If you don't bother me, I ain't gonna make no money, honey.
Why'd you show up in the first place? Yeah.
Yeah. But at any rate,
All right.
that's that. And I think she's going to end up having some spinal cord problems. That's what I originally diagnosed her as, that she had a ruptured disc in her neck that was causing this. And it sounds like she's still got a lot of that. And I'm concerned because I don't want to see her slip through the cracks when she could get surgery and we could get, normal function back. But she's awfully young. I mean, she's only in her mid-20s, so she probably would like to wait. And the nice thing about disc disease is if you can tolerate it and wait a year or two, a lot of times the disc will actually retract and kind of scar down. You may
Is something for a chiropractor?
That's where she started.
Oh,
that's
okay.
what started the problem. If you want to let a chiropractor work on your lower back, that's okay with me. There's a lot of room down there. So if they kind of compress and squeeze and move the vertebrae around on top of one another. That doesn't bother me because there's really not a whole lot down in the lower spine in the lumbar area. The spinal cord actually ends up in your chest, and then you've got these long nerves that go down. So there's a lot of room, and they come out at different levels. So there's a lot of room down in the lumbar spine, but in the neck, and especially in the neck and thoracic spine and the chest spine, there's just not much room, Ken, and you can do a lot of damage. And I've seen a couple of cases where chiropractors have done damage. So I would say be careful. If you want to see a chiropractor, you can go in for your low back, but I certainly wouldn't let them touch my neck or my chest. Now, this, they do have some tricks that work. They've learned some things over the centuries, and I think a lot of the osteopaths still train on and do some of that. But I would be careful. That would be my recommendation.
What is the difference between an osteopath and a chiropractor?
An osteopath, there was a doctor named Abraham Flexner at the turn of the last century. He was from Louisville, by the way, in medical school. And that's when Congress came out and passed the first Pure Food and Drug Act. And they also said, well, we want a committee to go around and close down all these hokey medical schools, because everybody was calling themselves a medical school. Chiropractors, homeopaths, doggy-opaths, vets, everybody. And so he formed a committee, and they went around and looked at all of the medical schools, quote, quote, in the country. And this was in the early 1900s. And they closed down about 80% of them and said they were not legitimate. What they let stand were the traditional MD medical doctor programs and some of the osteopathic programs, because they were also teaching real medicine along with some chiropractic. And so they still do some manipulation in a lot of the programs, although the DOs are being absorbed by the MDs. And the program we have for family practice, which was initially a DO program at St. Pete General, that has now been absorbed into the MD program, because the DOs and the MDs got together and said, well, we're only going to have one central committee that oversees the medical schools and the residency programs, and that's the ACGME, the American College of Graduate Medical Education. And so that's all MD now. So you can go to a DO school, but you're going to go through an MD residency, and you cannot really practice in any state anymore without at least an internship at some legitimate residency program. So that all changed in Abraham Flexner. They closed down a lot of these quote, quote, medical schools that weren't medical schools. And of course, that hurt the chiropractors' feelings, but too bad.
But they're okay for your lower back.
Too bad. Sorry about your tough luck. Go adjust yourself. But, a lot of what the chiropractors study is business, how to market yourself and how to get people to come in. And, a lot of them are making money off of these ambulance chasing lawyers. And there's a guy that has clinics all over town. I met him through our new group, and he's driving like a $400,000 car. He's a chiropractor, for God's sakes. He's got, 20 or 30 clinics around. So he's making millions of dollars a year. And basically they chase ambulances and workman's comp and all that kind of stuff. So go figure. You tell me.
Well, I've never been to a chiropractor, so I don't know. I've heard of horror stories about some folks, but others say it helps. So who are you going to believe?
Yeah,
well, believe the doc. That's who I'm going to believe.
Well, what I say is that going to really be any better than going to see a physiatrist or a physical therapist? I mean, can't they
Probably
do all
not,
that stuff? I don't know. I mean, I'm not an expert on chiropractics or physical medicine, but I would think that there are alternatives. And all the studies I read say that long-term medical treatment works better for low back pain than anything else. In time, you give it time. And I told you the story about my neck after I ruptured a disc above my fusion from my broken neck in 81. I called my neurosurgeon up in Atlanta, and he said, Bill, you've had enough surgery. He said, tough it out. In a year, the disc will retract and you'll feel better. And I do.
I think we have the captain calling in this morning. Oh, no,
Got the captain?
I think he left. Yep.
He left. He was here and gone.
Somebody
Well-
was there. I thought it was the captain, but he left, whoever it was.
You know the captain. He kind of flits around. He's got a lot of things going on.
He does. He's one busy guy.
He is. He's cute, but
He is.
Roger P is really tremendous. Roger,
And we had them both. Last week was fun. I enjoyed last week, by the way. We were live at Doc's place.
Oh, that was a really great experience for me. Now we made some mistakes, especially on the video broadcasting, and Yuli, she was supposed to keep her eye on things and she didn't. So I'm going to fire her. Well, actually I can't because I never hired her. She was just, she was volunteering.
All right. Wait, I think we may have the captain back. Let's take a quick look. Cap, you there?
Yes, I am. And what do you mean cute?
You are cute. You're adorable.
I'll have to ask the women that keep coming up to me.
They all want to hug the captain.
They just want your
the
money,
captain's-
Captain.
The captain's pretty good, but I got a question for the doc.
Go ahead.
All right, Doc. Oh, I get a blood test about every month because of the situation I got going with me, which you probably know about by now. But anyway, I still got a large amount of antibodies in my system from when I did have the COVID and didn't know it, and when I had the shots and shouldn't have. So my doctor tells me the other day, says, well, you don't need to worry about shots. Forget about that, blah, 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 blah. But isn't that unusual? Like some 2+ years later, and I've still got a large amount of antibodies? That's my question.
Well, I would have to see what test he ran. And is this a legitimate doctor or is this that guy? Up in,
No.
up in Clearwater.
It's a legitimate doctor.
Some guy on the beach. Yeah.
Yeah, from Northside Hospital. Yeah. Mhm.
From Northside. Oh my God, that's our enemy. St. Pete General. That's our arch enemy over there. So
Well, that's not where they sent me when I had my episode, but I'm sorry. I would have come to you if I'd been lucid enough to tell them.
I know you don't love me, Captain. It's just all you just
Now,
want.
Doc, that's
You
not
just want
true.
more
You can come on my
airtime.
show.
You just want more. You want more airtime. That's all.
Captain came out. Captain came all the way out last week to be with us. I thought
He
that was
did,
great.
and we
Yeah,
appreciate that, Captain.
And I enjoyed that because I met 4 of my people there that said, oh, we came here because of you. And I said, no, you came here because of the doctor. Go tell him.
Well, thanks for that, Captain. Appreciate it.
Well, I try to help you. And I told you the next time we're going to do this right. We're going to get the Captain's Army involved in this.
All right, there we
And
go.
Then you'll see it. Then you'll see an event because I also wanted to say briefly tomorrow I will be at 8:30 in the morning at the Sarasota National Cemetery for a national event, 9/11 event down there with the fire departments and the police departments and the veterans that have served because of 9/11. Some of whom have been buried in the cemetery down there. But we're going to have quite an event, and we expect 1,000 or more people.
Wow.
What time does that start?
8:30.
And where is that located?
Sarasota National Cemetery, State Route 72, about 2 miles east of Sarasota.
Okay.
All right.
You go.
Yep, looking forward to seeing some people there. I'll be there in my dress uniform.
Well, thanks for the heads up, Captain, and good luck with that. And our hearts go out to all the people who lost their lives in the 9/11
Amen.
event, and the families and the survivors. And I talked with one cop. We were up there 5 weeks after, and we went up into the Applebee's. It looks right down the barrel there at what was formerly the World Trade Center, and it was all rubble.
Right.
And she was so distraught, and we invited her over to the table, and she said, I'm just so upset. I said, why? What's wrong? She said, I'm afraid I'm going to get some kind of chronic disease from all of this dust and stuff. And so now apparently there are a lot of these people that are 15, 20 years later, they've got lung disease and other problems. So
331 of our firefighters have died that were there that day during that episode for that length of time. It's just this year alone, 331 of heart and lung disease.
Yep. All right, Captain.
They're not being counted. Listen, you guys have a great show. And Ken, I'm bringing breakfast.
Delightful. Thank you very much.
Okay, bye.
Thank you, Cap. So where were we, Ken?
We were about to take a break, as a matter of fact.
Oh, we were. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Good. Listen, I am so befuddled this morning. I'm having trouble getting my Restream going. I can't find all of my documents and I don't know what happened to everything. So it's a good time.
We're having a fine show. I thought the first half hour went just fine. So
Yeah, actually I winged it fairly well.
yeah, okay. We'll see if
got
you
a
can do it for the
question,
second
Paul?
half. I do have a question for the folks
All
out
right,
there.
buddy.
This is for Dr. Bill, your Radio MD coffee mugs. And the first person with the correct answer at 877-969-8600 will be the winner. Today's question, the doc is recommending that you get a COVID-19 booster shot if what? What category of person should you be to get the shot?
There you go.
And the number again, 877-969-8600, 877-969-8600. First person with the correct call wins. What should you be, as far as age is concerned, to get the COVID booster shot the doc is recommending? So give us a call.
We'll be right back. I'm Dr. Bill, your Radio MD.
Here's the latest from the Answer News Center.
With SRN News, I'm Michael Harrington in Washington. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is chastising China's premier for, quote, unacceptable interference in British democracy. It comes after a newspaper reported that a researcher in Parliament was arrested earlier this year on suspicion of spying for Beijing. Sunak says he raised the issue with Premier Li Qiang when the two met at a Group of 20 summit in India today. He said he'd expressed, quote, my very strong concerns. The Metropolitan Police Force of London confirmed that a man had been arrested. President Biden in Vietnam this morning, a country that wants to dramatically ramp up trade with the U.S. It's a sign of how competition with China is reshaping relationships across Asia. Vietnam is designating China, Russia, and the U.S. as special strategic trading partners. This is SRN News.
AM 860, The Answer. Listen on our website, theanswertampa.com, 93.7 FM, W229DJ Dunedin, by downloading the Answer Tampa app or on TuneIn or Odyssey.
Dr. Bill for Bay Area Medical, located at 6399 38th Avenue North in St. Pete, 727-384-6411, 727-384-6411. Full service clinic with x-ray, heart imaging, ultrasound, stress testing, and minor surgery. We provide quality health care in a warm and friendly atmosphere. We are multilingual, well-trained, and certified. Most American insurance and new patients accepted. Bay Area Medical, home of Can Care, 727-384-6411, 727-384-6411. Dr. Bill here. With social distancing and sheltering in place, telemedicine is here. Bay Area Medical, home of Can Care Clinic, offers telemedicine for new and established patients. You can see me without an in-office visit. Schedule an appointment at 727-384-6411, 727-384-6411. When it's time for your appointment, type this web address into your cell phone or computer web browser, doxy.me/Bay Area Med. A cell phone works well and is all you really need. For computers, you need a web camera and speakers. We'll give you this address when you call for your appointment. We accept most insurances and travel insurances. Canadians and visitors, please call your travel insurance company for an authorization number prior to the visit. Copays and deductibles apply. Self-pay rates are available. Just ask. We accept credit cards, PayPal, and Stripe. 727-384-6411, 727-384-6411. Dr. Bill here. My friends at St. Pete MRI and Sleep Diagnostics are your best choice for state-of-the-art MRI, CT, and sleep studies. Quality unsurpassed. 25 years experience makes St. Pete MRI my go-to imaging center. Self-pay rates are competitive and out-of-pocket cost a fraction of a hospital. Conveniently accessible from both sides of the bay at 750 94th Avenue North, St. Pete, near the Gandy, 727-577-2220, 727-577-2220.
The latest from AccuWeather at the top and bottom of the hour, only on AM 860, The Answer.
Partly sunny skies will bring an end to the weekend today with a high of 92. Clear skies tonight, then a few clouds move in later, low 78. Kicking off the week tomorrow, mostly sunny with a high of 93. Mainly clear skies tomorrow night, low 78. Grab the rain gear for Tuesday, mostly sunny, spotty thunderstorm in the afternoon with high 94. That's your AccuWeather forecast. I'm Cheryl Golden for AM 860, The Answer.
Would you say yes?
And I'm back. I'm Dr. Bill. You got
could go
me
without
on
you.
air, Ken? Are you there, buddy?
I am.
All
Are you not
right.
hearing the music this morning, Doc?
I heard a little bit of it. It sounded kind of broken up.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't know if that was intentional or not.
No, probably just another button in the wrong spot. You know me.
Oh, well, that's
All right.
okay. We're doing fine. I mean, all the problems I had this morning, and we're still doing a live show and doing a pretty good job of it. By the way, did anybody call in?
We do. We have a winner.
Who we got?
Dan Freely. It looks like Feely. Dan Feely of St. Petersburg.
Hey, Dan, welcome to the show, and thank you for listening. And we'll get some mugs out to you, buddy, and look forward to your future listening ship. Is that a word?
Listening ship? Sure. Why not?
Yeah, okay, now, all right.
Yeah, we'll get the mugs out. And thanks to everybody who called in, tried to win. But there can only be one. And unfortunately, it wasn't you this time. It was Dan.
No, yeah, well, we got plenty of mugs, though, because we didn't give away all 300 last week. So we still got.
All right, you're
tons of
stocked
them.
up then. Good.
We're stocked up, and I'll probably have to order some at the end of this season, though. Get some new ones in. That'll get the wife going. You spend how much on mugs?
Well, we'll have another live show in February or something when it's really nice.
Yeah, that would be the time to do it. I think it's the winter, when there are more people down here and the weather is a little more pleasant. And yeah, I think that we probably ought to look at that. But if we're going to do it, Ken, we have to start now, because I got to get sponsors, and they don't just grow on trees. You know, you
got to get in there. Yeah, you got to get in their budget. Yeah.
Yep, you got to get in their budget. So at
What's
any
going
rate,
on? What else is going on today?
well, I'm upset with Elon Musk.
What did Elon do?
He turned Starlink off over the Ukraine.
I got to tell you, I'm a little perturbed about that too.
And apparently the Russians threatened nuclear warfare if he didn't turn it off. And so I guess he doesn't want to be the man responsible for nuclear warfare. You know what? I say let him fire a nuke into the Ukraine, and then let's take him off the frickin' map. I mean, why are we pussyfooting around here? Let's just send troops in.
It starts with the leadership. If your leader's afraid, the country will be afraid. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you know, the country didn't want to go to war in the late 1930s, but Roosevelt started preparing them. I mean, he started talking, and he got the Lend-Lease deal, and he was shipping goods over to England and keeping them alive. And you know, it took a little push from the Japanese to get us in, but we got in.
Yeah, well, it's a spirit America doesn't feel right now, apparently. Right?
No, but you know, there's always been a big anti-war, stay out of Europe's war, European wars sentiment in this country, and that goes back to the 1790s when John Adams kept us out of the Napoleonic Wars, and we did have the Quasi War down in the Caribbean with the French. We shot back and forth, ships were going at it, but he kept us out of the main battle, which was basically a world war. I mean, it was being fought in North America. It was being fought in Europe and North Africa. I'm sure that they pulled in some Indians from the subcontinent. And, you know, basically it was the Napoleonic War turned into a world war. So, and we stayed out of it. And ever since then, we've been reluctant to get involved in European or Asian affairs, but we're already involved. What's the difference, Ken?
I know. Yeah.
We got our nose in there. We've got our money in there. I mean, we're a stakeholder, as they say in the latest jargon. I think.
Well, then at least get those F-16s in there. I don't know why this is taking so long.
I don't either. And, you know, I'm going to call Elon up and give him a piece of my mind. You think he'll answer?
No.
Oh, okay.
I don't think. I think he's got people to answer for him.
Oh, well, good. I'll go grab one of them and ring their little neck. So we were out to dinner last night with our neighbors, and John is recently retired from General Motors. He was at one point head of their worldwide real estate department, and so he traveled all over. And we asked him about the United Auto Workers. You know, they're threatening to strike. You heard about that, didn't you?
Yeah, all three American manufacturers may be dealing with a strike. Yeah. And
so we asked him, we said, what do you think is going to happen? He said, oh, they're going to strike for sure. You know what they want? They want 46% increase.
46%?
46%.
46%.
You know, these guys are going to be making as much money as I am.
What?
Putting windshields on cars. Wait a
Actually,
minute.
watching robots put windshields on cars in a lot of cases.
Yeah, you know, walking around with a can of WD-40 and making sure everything's moving right.
Yeah. 46%. That's crazy.
And you know, I think GM offered them, or I think it was GM offered them 15%, and they thumbed their nose at that. Apparently, they've got some.
Remember the days of 5% increases were big, and
Oh yeah. I mean, I can understand the cost of living has gone up, and our employees have gotten pretty big increases over the past couple of years. You know, we've probably gone up 25% in pay because they can't afford to live. You know, if you're paying somebody $20 an hour, that's $40,000 a year. That's before taxes, and they have rent of $1,500 a month. I mean, you're already way over what you should be allocating for your housing. I think the rule of thumb is about 30% at the most.
I think you're right. Yeah.
And I mean, they can't live, they can't make it, and they're in tears. And you know, you feel for them. I try to stay out of the money end of it and let Her Highness handle all that, because she's better at saying no than I am. I feel. She's like, I feel sorry for him, but to hell with him. I want a new purse.
Well, you know, the unions usually, the car companies have had a good run past few years as far as price hikes are concerned. So they've got to have pretty good profit numbers, and that's what they look at. They want part of those profits from the past few years.
Well, what I don't think is being taken into account is the amount of money they're bleeding in other aspects, like electric cars and their real estate ventures, which commercial real estate's going down. And so they're taking hits in other areas. They may have sold a lot of cars, but that doesn't mean they're making the big money that they were making as a corporation. Now, I don't know what GM pays as a dividend to their stockholders, but remember the last group of stockholders, what they got when GM went into the Chapter 7 reorganization, or 13, whichever one it was. Remember that back in the Obama era?
That a long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been what, 15 years ago?
Yeah.
The stockholders got nothing. They got not even 1 penny for their stocks. And I think the bondholders may have gotten something like 50 cents on the dollar. So if you held those bonds for 10 years, you came out losing money. Could have put it in the bank at 3% and made better. So I would say that, and it's not the first time that I'm sure that GM has gone into financial crisis. And remember, Chrysler went into it back in the 1980s. Remember, and Lee Iacocca went in and.
Yeah, they got bailed out by the feds, didn't they?
Yeah, I think he begged Reagan for help, and Reagan decided to help bail him out. But I remember Reagan would not bail out New York City, which it kind of made me laugh.
I think all of us agreed with that one. Let's sit there.
Yeah, let them get their financial house in order. So at any rate, I said, well, how's this going to affect production of cars, John? He said, they're going to stop. There'll be a lack of cars on the lots next year. I don't know if that's true or not, but that was his take on it.
Well, I don't know either, but the strikes are usually not very good for consumers. That's all I know.
No, they're not good for consumers. And, you know, they cripple a lot of other things too, because, you know, the United Auto Workers aren't only making cars, they're making car parts and doing all kinds of different things. We'll see what happens.
Maybe we'll talk about. You always start with a request for much more than you want because you need some negotiating room.
Well, that's true. I mean, you know, ask for 100% increase, and if you get 20, you're happy.
Exactly. Yeah. It's better than losing your job.
Well, you know what I did is I just stole her credit cards, and then I can get whatever I want until she catches me and gets them back. And she did something now. She's got the American Express so that they notify her, and the bank has to give us a code. So now I can't use American Express. So she shut me down on that. I'm gonna talk to that woman after the show.
For every purchase, they send you a code? So
every purchase now, the bank has to okay it. And I'm I'm going to get mad about that. Of course, I won't really be mad, but I'll put on a good show.
That's probably a good idea from security standpoint. So,
And so meanwhile, while all oil prices are again going back up, our brilliant president has said there'll be no new drilling in Alaska for oil. And we can't have nuclear. And so I think he's giving away free mini windmills.
we're all
So
going to wear them on our heads, little hats with generate electricity right there, right here in our hats. We'll all be wired up together.
Yeah, we'll all be wired up, and then you get everybody gets one little solar panel, and you can put that on your hat during the day, and at night just put your little wind thing on and generate enough electricity to keep your hearing aid running.
That's already battery powered, so I'm doing all right there.
I'll tell you what, it's really mind blowing, the way in which this administration thinks. I mean, I don't have a problem with getting off of hydrocarbon fuel, but for God's sakes, do it in some kind of reasonable way.
Well,
So-
yeah, because he's talking about, when you talk about Alaska, you're talking about oil years down the road. It's not
Yeah.
going to happen quickly.
No. And
our reserves are way down right now because he's been putting them on the market,
trying to keep
the price down. So we got to get some more oil, but we don't want the price to go through the roof.
And if I were, if I were a military leader, I would be looking at that in another country and saying, I wonder if they would be able to mount a decent defensive response if we attack them now. Now, I don't think anybody's going to frontally attack us, but you know what I'm saying? I mean,
You never want to look weak in any area.
yeah, the best defense is to remain strong.
Exactly.
And strength is what we have shown over the past 100 years. And now we're, I don't know, are we backing away from that? Is that what this administration is doing?
It just seems like over the past, since the 60s, it seems like, Korea since the 50s. It's that nuclear word. And,
Well, I think also it's that Democrats running the war word.
that doesn't help it either. Yeah,
It doesn't help because they give up and go home even when they're winning.
That's right.
I don't-
Wait,
I
it was.
don't-
I mean,
I
we
don't
could have
get
won if we wanted to win the Vietnam War, we could have won the Vietnam War.
Oh yeah, it would have been 3 months. Bomb the crap out of Hanoi. That's the end of it. They would have.
Yeah,
come
exactly.
and begged for mercy. And same way with the Korean War. If we'd let MacArthur go, the nukes weren't that big then. I mean, a couple of nukes here and there in China, that would have calmed them down.
You get close and somebody says nuke, and that's the end of it. We back away.
Yeah. Oh well.
It shows weakness. It's not good.
It's not good. It's not good. And it's the same way with energy. You say nuclear and the left melts down. Oh my God.
Right.
You'll pollute. No, you won't. It's the least polluting of any energy source we have right now. Now, one of my friends said, I'd just wait till 2035. We'll have fusion reactors by then. I don't think it's going to be that easy, Ken.
I don't think so. They're still a long ways away from there.
I mean, some South Korean scientists made a very minute amount of energy in a fusion reaction that lasted, like a millionth of a second. And so you got to start somewhere, but
it was a step forward, but
yeah,
we're a long ways away from
we got a long ways to go.
That being a source of electricity. Yeah.
And meanwhile, Biden's over there with the G20 and he's playing kissy face with the Communist Party leader of Vietnam because he wants them to make computer chips. I'm going over there, the end of the month, we're headed out.
You straighten them all out?
Yeah, we're going to stop in Ho Chi Minh City, so I'll go in and get them straightened out. I don't know if I have a lot of time, but I should be able to make a little bit of a splash.
You'll make an impact on them, I'm sure.
Meanwhile,
are you doing the show live from China?
I'm going to try. I'll be in home.
They allow you to do that?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, as long as I don't say anything bad about President Xi. I mean, I like him. He's a nice man.
Well, at least while you're there, you do.
Yeah, when in Rome, do as the Romans do.
Exactly. You want to get out.
Speaking of the Chinese, you know, their road and belt initiative, that's crumbling. And a lot of these countries that signed on with them are now saying, wait a minute, you know, Panama and the Panama Canal is, because the Chinese said, well, we'll give you this and this and this, but we want that, that, and that. And now the debt's being called back in, and the countries that they are in are saying, wait a minute, we didn't get our money's worth here. You want more than we have received from you, and you're supposed to be the big rich senior partner here.
Surprise, surprise, a double cross. Oh my.
Yeah. So that's going to start to crumble. And, you know, they had big plans. Remember, we talked about this a few years ago. They were going to have a Belt and Road all the way from Beijing to the port of Haifa in Israel. That didn't materialize. A lot of hot air. So now the Saudis are trying to figure out who they're going to buddy up with. I guess they're getting close with the Indians, and the Indians are trying to stay at least publicly neutral, although privately, I think Modi would like to have India and the United States in a strategic alliance. But there's still a lot of the older generation in India that harbors ill feelings towards the United States because we sided with Pakistan over the years.
Right.
We didn't have a choice, you know, because that idiot Nehru, he sided with the Russians, with the Soviets.
Well, the Saudis and the Russians are teaming up to keep the price of oil high. I saw that.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not because the Saudis have any great love for the Russians. They like money. Like money. They're not doing it as a friendship. You know, it's like Luca Brazzi said.
They're trying to stay in power, basically.
It's just business. Just business.
The business, that's right.
You know, I gotta whack you. Just business.
Well, everything is like free. How much? Just about everything is free in Saudi Arabia as far as energy is concerned.
If you're a Saudi.
If you're a Saudi. So, and education, I think, is all free. So they have a lot to pay for.
But I think in some of these countries like Dubai and UAE, I think the population is now predominantly Indian. You know, because they don't have the worker bees and they want all this infrastructure, and you know, but basically they look at the Indians like slaves, servants.
Yeah, well, that's money. Money will do that.
Yeah, and I think the Arabs they're still pretty racist too. You know, they still look down on the rest of the world, although they'll change. It's becoming more and more of a one world. Especially if President Xi takes over and runs the whole world, then we'll all be.
I really don't think we'll allow that to happen without a little skirmish.
I hope not, Ken. I hope that our president's chalupas develop a little bit more before that happens, or he's gone. I don't think he's going to win. I think Trump can beat him. I think DeSantis can beat him. Hell, I think Ramawasi could beat him. I think almost any of
any live body,
I think could get in there and beat him. I am shocked. You know, the latest polls show Trump and Biden in a dead heat, and you know that that means that Trump's 5% points greater than that because Republicans, conservatives, we don't answer polls. We hang up. We don't want anybody to know what we think. Let them guess.
I'm kind of on the side of Biden will drop out before.
I think
there'll be a medical reason why he can't continue, and
I think
the question is what happens then.
I don't think he has the stuff really. I mean, you know, regardless of his politics and his philosophy, I think that he is not physically capable. He just is not. His Parkinson's disease is too far advanced, and you get some dementia with that, and all these things add up to big problems. I mean, big medical problems. And what do you do? I mean, you can't have somebody who's demented and can't walk and talk running the country. This is a big business.
And if he's not, then who is running the country? You know.
Yeah, as Calvin Coolidge said, the business of government is business. It's a business. And if you read the Constitution and you look at all the legal documents, they're business documents. They're legal documents. There's no, let's be nice and justice is what I think it is and all that kind of crap. We'll see what happens.
Well, if it ends up to be Harris, it'll be a landslide for former president.
Yep, I think so. Meanwhile, Putin, he wants his main hitman back because he killed Prigozhin. So now so he's got some hitman that he locked up who said something bad about him. So now he's negotiating to let him out of jail if he'll come work for him. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. You cannot make this up. And you got to, oh, by the way, I was talking with one of my patients. She's a gal who was born in Germany. She's my age. She was born a few years older. She was born right at the end of World War II in 1945. And she was born in Western Germany. We were talking about the East Germans who are now, there's a big neo-Nazi movement starting up in East Germany. And she was, laughing about that. And so we got to talking about the Russians, and I said, and we were both shaking our heads about the whole Russian situation. And I said, they're just educated barbarians. And she looked at me and she said, educated? I said, well, I think they have about a 70 or 80% literacy rate. So
Educated barbarian.
Educated.
Give me the name of my next band. Educated Barbarians.
There you go.
We got about a minute, 12 seconds left here, Doc.
Wow, the time went. Even though I felt completely unprepared, I think we got through the show fairly well.
Sometimes those are your best shows.
There you go. Well, I am Dr. Bill, and we're at 6399 38th Avenue North in St. Petersburg, Florida. And our phone number is 727-384-6411, 727-384-6411. I am switching over to Zoom for the telemedicine, and they do have a HIPAA compliant portion on the Zoom that we use. And what you have to do first is download that Zoom app onto your smartphone, and that just takes a minute or two. But if you do that in advance, then I can send you the link. And by the way, we're using Zoom right now. Ken and I are on Zoom with each other.
It's great. Yeah.
He is so cute. He's cuter than the captain.
We got about 15 seconds, Doc. Give the phone number for the office one more time.
727-384-6411. 727-384-6411. I am Dr. Bill, your radio MD.
See you next week, Doc.
Bye-bye, buddy.